It's Wednesday, January 16th, 2019, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, we learn about initiatives and programs in the Barnstable school system, and Cape Light Compact teaches us how to read our electric bill. First up, municipal community news and notes. The Planning Board has approved a request to reconfigure Cape Cod Mall's exterior signage along Route 132. Representing Simon Property Group, attorney Michael Ford said the request is a result of the mall's retenanting the former Sears space to make way for Target and other retailers. According to Ford, the ordinance governing the mall signage is outdated. The mall originally opened in 1969, and the last time its sign ordinance received a substantial overhaul was in 1998. The size of the three freestanding pylon signs would increase from 150 to 170 square feet, and the mall's electric sign would be phased out. For the last 6 months, Ford said he's been working closely with Elizabeth Jenkins, Barnstable Planning and Development Director, to accommodate changes in the mall's tenant mix and give a number of smaller retailers more exposure. School Superintendent Meg Mayo-Brown and School Committee Chair Chris Joyce join us in studio for a quarterly update on the latest in Barnstable school system. It's a new year, but halfway through the school year. With me today, Superintendent Meg Mayo-Brown and Chair of the School Committee, Chris Joyce. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Paula. Great to be here.
So we're halfway through the school year. It kind of has to feel pretty good, right? 2018 into 2019 now, but we're right in the heart of budget season. So Chris and Meg, tell us a little bit about the process of budget for schools.
Well, at this point in time, the principals and department heads are submitting their budget requests for school committee consideration. So that's where we are in the process. Principals and directors would submit, if they need new positions, new materials, so they provide a rationale and a budget amount, and we start compiling that data to present to the school committee. And then from there?
So we have a number of presentations starting at our next school committee. And it's throughout the winter. It's a moving target because it's constantly moving, and projections on what the revenue is going to be versus the expenses. And at the end of the cycle is in April, we then vote on the proposed budget, and then that goes to the town and town council. Am I right on those dates?
You are.
And being on the school committee now for a number of years, it took a while to figure out, okay, well, we're starting in presentation, in early February, but it changes as it goes because what becomes a priority sometimes has to change due to funding sources or due to changes within the district. So it's a very fluid motion as it goes across.
And that's interesting too, because there's multiple facets of budgets as well, so we can break it down to viewers. There's buildings and assets as budgetary items,
Sure.
things that have to be repaired,
Yeah.
things that are in motion that have maybe need additional money, and then, like you said, there's positions, there's new coursework materials. How does the superintendent work with the school committee to kind of balance those different needs?
Well, I think the great thing about the town of Barnstable is its capital improvement project budgeting. So those major projects, whether it's a roof replacement, a library renovation, are handled through a separate budgeting process. And so we work with the school committee on here's what we're thinking in terms of our priorities for the capital improvement projects, and we have that discussion with the school committee. The operating budget, 80% of our operating budget is primarily people. And so the school committee always wants to ensure that we're keeping our class sizes lower and reasonable. So that's always the focus is the classroom first, and then we see what other funding we have available to supplement those types of classroom positions.
Right. How do residents get involved in this process? Like, you want to hear input,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Probably through the public comment process at school committee meetings, which is surprising we don't have more input than we've had. One thing I will tell you, the budget doesn't move a lot. We have X number of dollars. There'll be a little increase in the upcoming year where people take up the majority of the budget. So obviously we're trying to do the best we can with the revenue allotted, but it doesn't give a lot of room for a lot of changes. So a lot of times if we're going in a direction where the district is changing and we need help in areas, that means we have to maybe cut back in some other areas that we don't need as much. And it's not, it's challenging, especially where, you know, the needle doesn't move that much because it's, you know, there's just a little bit of money, new funds, and by the time you cost of living and all those other things get added in, it doesn't leave much, you know, on the wish list.
Right. There's a number of different types of programs out there, but before we get into the things that are actually happening on the I guess the turf or the fields of the schools right now, Innovation School, where are we?
Right, so so there's a group of what we refer to as stakeholders, primarily teachers. Myself, Barbara Dunn, represents the school committee on this stakeholder group that is designing the Innovation School application. That application defines what the school's mission and focus and sort of operation would be. So there's been much work, and that's to that model is to replace the Horace Mann charter school model that's currently in existence. So the stakeholder group has been meeting for a couple of months now. Great progress has been made. In fact, this week, the teachers at the community charter are going to vote on whether or not they accept the Innovation School plan. If they have to accept it by a 2/3 majority, and then the process goes to the school committee after that, because the school committee is actually the authority that authorizes an innovation school for up to 5 years. So we've wrapped up on designing the school, if you will, and now it's into the technical aspects of seeking and getting votes of the teachers and the school committee as well.
And the school committee prepared to look at this as the alternative to the charter school. And what does an innovation school give the school committee that a charter school did not?
The simplest way to explain it is an innovation school from a classroom type setting is going to be very similar to a charter school. Just the administration of that school is run under the direction of the school district, where that building was run more by a board of directors. Their funding still came out of our budget. So basically, and the stakeholders and then the teachers in the school that are working at that, I think, are doing a tremendous job in what they're trying to achieve there.
Okay. Excellent. So now we'll move on to just recently in the last week or so, Alice training has started with some of, I know our intern came in and said he just had some of his training. So let's explain what Alice training is for those who don't have children in school and haven't gotten that information.
Sure. So Alice is an acronym for our safety or our emergency response should there be a school intruder. So our teachers have gone through Alice training since last summer. They took an online component of it. We had a number of professional development sessions just for teachers, because we want to be sure that our building staff is very clear on what the Alice protocol is, which basically stands for alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And I think what's most important is the E in that, in Alice, because if it's safe to do so, we want our educators to make decisions to get our students out of school safely and to a safe place. So that's been much of the training. Now we're shifting our efforts to ensuring that our students understand the protocol and have opportunities to practice it. Because what we know is the more opportunities that everyone has to practice, should there ever be a situation where we have a school intruder, they're going to rely on those practice sessions to really inform the action steps that they need to take. So schools we're very sensitive to the developmental needs of our children, and an Alice drill in kindergarten is going to look very different than an Alice drill at the high school level. So the high school students yesterday went through different scenarios. We have a great partnership with the Barnstable Police Department. We really do this we co-facilitate the sessions, and just can't say enough about our school resource officers that are leading this initiative with us. So this week, parents will probably hear at home that that their children have participated in some type of session developmentally appropriate for their age.
Right, and that kind of brings me to the one of the last topics we'll talk about is social emotional learning. Is it seems to be a catchphrase that sort of started to come out, but it's really literally educating the whole child, not just the academic, but everything else that wraps around that.
Right.
And I'll start with you, Meg. Talk about social emotional learning in the schools. It's been 2 years now?
Yes.
2 years since this programming has come in.
Right.
Are you starting to see something with students, kinder, gentler world out there?
Right, I believe we are. And social emotional learning, we're putting a significant amount of resources into it. The school committee has adopted a vision around it. We have a universal curriculum to teach our students. And when we talk about social emotional learning, lots of times folks will say, what are you talking about? Well, it's a student's ability to self-manage, be self-aware, to make responsible decisions. And that covers the ground from preschool to seniors in high school. So it's something that we've put in that, again, it depends on the different grade level in terms of what that might look like in the classroom. At the elementary level, it's very much building a community sense in the classroom and having a community, a positive learning community. So teachers will begin each morning with what we call morning meeting. It's a way for all kids to come together, have a greeting, have a message. We kind of started our day off in a very positive way. And the teacher language that occurs in something like morning meeting will be carried out through the day. Again, the goal is to build that positive learning environment and to help our students are faced with a ton of issues, regardless of their grade level. And I feel like it's a responsibility of our school system to help them not only learn an academic skill set, but a social emotional skill set to navigate the world in which they live in now.
Right. And Chris, when you look at the makeup of a school committee and you start talking about social emotional learning, where it seems that more residents are like, well, I got to pay taxes so you can teach science. How do you balance these types of programs with that academic mindset maybe of some of our older residents who haven't come in contact with children that are facing really different stuff nowadays?
Well, I mean, as Meg alluded to, these children today are facing challenges that we never thought would be brought in front of them. And there's a lot of skill set that we learned as kids just by human nature and by our culture and day-to-day activities that was just commonplace, and that's not happening today anymore. And if we're not preparing these kids, if we can get these kids by the time they're done and walked out of Barnstable Public Schools to believe in themselves, to have self-respect, to be able to be in a setting where they can speak for themselves and stand up for themselves, in my eyes, that is as important as anything else that we're going to teach them, because that's going to carry them very far in life. And that's just one simple part of social and emotional learning. There are so many other aspects that we would need a lot longer to discuss. But I think as any resident or taxpayer looking at this, if we're just teaching them reading, writing, math, engineering, and not teaching these other skills, we've failed drastically.
Right. And something that I had heard, I've been talking to Gina Hurley, who runs this program. She really said that these are skills that these children will take into adulthood, into employment skills.
No question, absolutely no question.
So what would be, we'll end on a really positive note. What are some of those skills that our employers are looking for that this program's going to do?
Well, let's ask an employer.
Well, I mean, for instance, when one of our students goes to college and afterwards they're applying, or not going to college, and they're going to apply for a job, and hopefully we've got them college or career ready, and they go in an interview and they can look someone in the eye and believe in themselves that they can get that job, instead of not addressing someone correctly, not looking someone in the eye, not believing in themselves. So that is just one little iota. Or as they walk out of and go to college, and how are they going to interact with people they're living with, or in a different setting where they don't have so much control over them, where they have to make decisions. Hopefully we've taught them to act well with others and lead themselves instead of be followers.
It's also being very kind as well. I love the morning meeting. I think that is something that growing up in the 60s and 70s, we kind of did that in our classrooms. It was just you had to wait for all the buses to get in kind of thing.
Yeah.
So as we look forward into the next quarter, anything that you want residents to know, just, budget-wise, or, going towards the end of the year. It's already January.
I know, and no snow days yet, so let's keep it that way, right? But this, for us, particularly in the central office and with the school committee, we start shifting to obviously paying attention to what's currently going on in the school system and in our schools, but preparing for next year. That's much of our work at this point.
And Chris?
I mean, right now, from a school committee standpoint, we're really knee-deep at the beginning, right as the front end of the budget season. So that's one of our big responsibilities as an elected official to the school committee is oversight of the budget. So that's really what we're going to be spending a lot of our time on until we get that to the point we need to in April.
Excellent. Thanks so
Great.
much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Reading your electric bill can be confusing. Delivery charges, suppliers, kilowatts used, and meter readings. Austin Brandt, Senior Power Supply Manager from Cape Light Compact, breaks down the bill and has some helpful tips for those phone solicitations too. We're always thinking about saving money and saving energy here in the winter on Cape Cod. With me today, Austin Brandt from the Cape Light Compact. It's starting to get cold and people are starting to see those electric bills rise a bit.
That's right, yep. And I have heard from a lot of customers, as is normal this time of year, about them getting calls from electricity suppliers who promise to save them money by signing on to a contract. And so what we always advise customers, especially at this time of year when prices are high overall, is to look really carefully about at those offers that you're getting and be sure that you know what you're signing up for if you're shopping around for competitive supply at this time of year.
Right, and it might not be the best time to do it this time of year. So how does Cape Light Compact set their prices?
So the Cape Light Compact for residential and small commercial customers has 6-month pricing cycles. So what we do is every 6 months we go out and we buy electricity for our customers on the wholesale market. Now what we find is that our pricing cycle that runs December through June is generally higher than the one that runs June through December. And that's typical of all of New England, because what's happening in New England is over 60% of our electricity comes from natural gas. So in the winter months, when people are using natural gas to heat their homes, there's less left over for electricity producers to buy on the secondary market. And when there's less supply, high demand, you're driving prices up. And so what we see in the wintertime in New England is because of this natural gas pipeline capacity issue, we have higher electricity prices only during these winter months. Now, what suppliers like to do is when prices rise and suppliers like the Cape Light Compact, like Eversource Basic Service, have to raise their prices because we had to buy more expensive electricity, as does everyone. What they like to come in and do is offer, say, a 12-month or a 24-month rate that looks really great right now, but when prices drop in the later part of the spring and in the summer months, it may not be such a great deal in terms of price.
Right. And why don't you give some tips about what happens when those phone calls come in and when people are soliciting? They're pretty nefarious, aren't they?
Some of them really are, and try to use some shady tactics to get people to sign up. But what we tell customers is always ask for written information. So ask them to send you written information about the offer in the mail. If they are an above board company, they're generally willing to do that. Never ever provide your Eversource electric account number for any reason to anyone that you're not sure you want to be on their power supply. And never commit to anything over the phone. You always want to get it in writing, and you want to read what the terms and conditions are of the offer.
All right. So talk about reading here. That electric bills it reminds me of algebra. There's lots of X's and Y's and numbers that don't make a lot of sense. So you're going to walk us through reading an electric bill today?
Sure. Yep, I can talk a little bit about that. So your electric bill from Eversource has 2 main parts. There's supply or generation, and that part of the bill you have control over by picking or choosing a power supplier. And there are a lot of them out there. The Cape Light Compact provides supply for anyone on the Cape or Vineyard who wants to participate. There's also the delivery portion of the bill. These are charges that Eversource sets and are approved by the Department of Public Utilities, and they collect those charges to pay for the poles and wires and distribution infrastructure that brings the power to your home or business. So what these offers that are being offered to customers right now over the phone or in the mail are for supply only. You don't have any choice over who your delivery company is. That's Eversource as the local utility. But on the bill, there are a couple important things you want to look at. You want to look at your price per kilowatt hour, especially for supply, which you have control over. and you want to understand what you're paying for supply on a per kilowatt hour basis. But also importantly, you want to look at what you're using in terms of your total kilowatt hours, because that is really the bigger driver of cost in the wintertime, especially for those that have electric heat or poorly insulated homes. And the Cape Light Compact can impact both of those cost aspects. We offer supply that you can choose to participate in to reduce your supply costs potentially, depending on what competitive supply rate you're on. And then we also offer energy assessments to help customers reduce their usage, potentially through insulation or other energy saving measures. Right. And we offer that at no direct cost through our energy audit program.
Right. So it's funny when you say the kilowatt hours. Give a person an example of some numbers in kilowatt hours and what those appliances or what those things might be, because that always kind of baffles me. Is I see how much we've used, but I'm not sure what's using it, right?
Absolutely, yep. So the biggest energy drivers in a residential home are heating, cooling, hot water, and lighting. And the Cape Light Compact Energy Efficiency Program can impact all of those and save you money on all those areas. So what our energy assessment team will come in and do is they will measure assess how insulated the home is, and that can often be the biggest bang for your buck in terms of saving money. And we offer incentives to help customers pay for additional insulation on their home, which can save them money and help their home be more comfortable. We offer rebates on efficient appliances, which are big energy users in the home. We offer rebates on heating and cooling systems. So those are really the biggest drivers. We offer energy efficient lighting upgrades at the time of the assessment. We go in and we'll change out old inefficient light bulbs for new LEDs, and that can save money as well.
Right. It's funny, that insulation, I have to say, we took advantage of that, and you can tell. I mean, the house was probably 30 to 40% warmer than it ever was. Just getting the insulation into the attic, it was an amazing. And when we're talking about bills as well, this time of year, obviously, we're using more energy because it's cold and we have other things out there. But what are some of the other pieces that people can put in place? I noticed that there's these, they call them vampire energy users. So what are those?
So vampire loads are loads where, your microwave, for instance, most people just leave it plugged in all the time. It's not running most of the time except when you're cooking food, but even when it's plugged in, it's drawing a little bit of electricity. Same with your DVD player, your TV, your cable box. Cable box is actually a pretty big user of energy. So one of the things that the Cape Light Compact provides through its energy assessment program is actually smart strips. And what smart strips do is they cut off physically the power to those devices that aren't in use based on the device that's plugged in that is controlling the other. So for instance, if you have an entertainment system where you have your TV, your cable box, your speakers, your DVD player, if you use the TV as the control plug, and when you turn off the TV, it will cut power to all those other devices on the smart strip.
That's fantastic, and a really easy way to save money and energy.
Absolutely, and one that doesn't impact how you use your equipment.
Right, and I know one of Lindsay's favorite tips is to open up those curtains in the morning and just heat your rooms through the sunshine that's out there.
Absolutely.
Little of it, but there's some.
Absolutely, curtains that you open in the morning can let light in, natural heating. If you close them at night and they're insulated, they can help keep your house warmer and save you energy there as well.
Excellent. Anything else you want to add before we leave today?
No, we have a lot of good information on our website. We always encourage our customers to sign up for the free home energy assessment. The number is on our website, and if they want to find out more about competitive supply offers or how to assess whether or not they're getting a good offer or want to sign up for a power supply program, that information's on our website as well.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thanks, Austin.
Thank you, Paula.
Here's a look at things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Come celebrate the 150 years of the history of the Centerville Library on Thursday, January 17th, all day from 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. View the display and enjoy light refreshments. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.